Hello everybody, welcome back to our channel. And if you're new to this channel, the only channel on YouTube that brings you real classic Mercedes content. I mean, there might be some other ones, but we're the best. Please like us and please share. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so already. And you know, the comment feed is open below because we're transparent, unlike some other channels out there. So yeah. Anyway, today we're going to talk about some symptoms that your car is going to experience when there are underlying SLS problems. And while this applies to cars like the 300 TD, the real focus here is on the 190E 16 valve, 500E, and 560 SEC and SEL, because these use the second generation level control system. So let's talk about it. First of all, though, before we do any video content, I want to just bow my head and honor the late Stirling Moss, Sir Stirling Moss, arguably the greatest racing driver ever, who passed away April 10th at the age of 90. May God keep and bless Stirling Moss, because while a lot of race car drivers were out partying and hooking up with women, Stirling always maintained a respectable life both in private and in public. And I always admired him for being a true gentleman of the greatest order. And of course, the British Empire did too, which is why they knighted him. So, Stirling, we're proud of you, and what an amazing career you had. Thank you for all of the wonderful wisdom about racing you've given us over the years. Now, going back to our topic today. One of the #1 complaints I get about the suspension on the 560 SEC and SEL is everything can be working perfectly, but the suspension can be really tough to deal with. And you know, the truth is that these suspension systems aren't that hard. Unless your rear shock bushings are bad, which is the first thing we're going to talk about. Now, if you have a 560 SEL or SEC and you're getting a thud when you go over bumps, and this thud is just, I don't know how to put it, this thud is just really annoying, ba-dump, 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 but you know your accumulators are good and you know that your hydraulic system is working, there are two things you have to do. The first thing that you need to do is you need to change your rear shock bushings. And these rear shock bushings, which I'm actually going to look up here, let's see here, our part number. By the way, the site that I'm using, if you can see it, is called mbepc.net. And it's not a great website, but it kind of gets the job done. But anyway, the bushings that go between the shock absorber and the body of the car usually flatten out and wear out. And Mercedes originally prescribed part number 114 blah 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 for the bottom and 115 blah 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 for the top. I was hoping to pull up the part number here on this website, but that's the problem with freeware. It never really works 100%. But anyway, the original part in this diagram, oh, here we are, self-leveling device. Okay. So, you're going to need, if you want to fix this problem, this thump, you're going to need 2 of part number 114-326-0068 for each side. So that would be a total of 4. What you should not use is 115-326-1668. You do not use those anymore. You use 2 of 114-326-0068 on the top and bottom of each shock. And then you adjust your leveling control rod until it's right at the threshold of operation. That means that if you put any weight on the rear of the car, it starts to level the car out. I remember my buddy Richard and I working on his 560 SEC with just over 20,000 miles. Car did not ride right. We did all the suspension updates. We adjusted the level control rod, and we changed those bushings, then it rode like a different car. It was firm. It felt like it had presence. It felt like it was sticking to the road at that time. Okay, now let's go on to another very important topic with SLS. Thomas, could you hand me one of those Corteco boxes on the... Yes, thank you. In the box is the ubiquitous rear accumulator, 560 SEC, 560 SEL. I think these also work on the 300 TE. They're not the same ones that you'd find on a 500E. But anyway, the big problem with these accumulators isn't just that they cause rear end bounce when the car goes over a bump. No, that is not the case. They don't just cause rear end bounce. They can also cause the rear end not pump up, and then it'll seem like you have a dead leveling valve. So, if you keep trying to flush the system and manipulating the arm and the hydraulic valve, trying to get the car to pump up, and it won't pump up, but it doesn't bounce, your accumulators are still bad. All of your fluid is going into the accumulator. It's not going into the shock absorber like it should. So you must replace the accumulators. Now the last thing is just the rod's not correctly adjusted. How do you correctly adjust the control rod on like a 500E or a 126 560 SEL or a similar car? Well, you have to loosen the nuts on the top and the bottom of the control rod so that you can adjust the rod height manually. But I found that many of these rods were just too long, even from the factory. And as the damping valves and the shocks wear, and as the suspension control valve gets some miles on it, you have to compensate by adjusting the rod. Now, what does this mean? It means that the back end of the car is going to sit up higher. It also means that the front end of the car might seem a little bit lower. Now, if you have a 500E and you're running into this problem, replace your front springs. Mercedes has new front springs out for the 500E that have an extra coil. And boy, do they make all the difference. Spend the $160 a piece on springs. That's what you've got to do. Then the car will level out and it'll ride really nicely. With the 126, it's not such a problem because the 126 likes to ride high in front. But you've got to adjust the rear leveling valve until you get an ideal rear ride height and an ideal rear ride feel. And again, replace your shock bushings on any car if you're not sure how they're doing. You know, or if they're original, that really contributes to how good the ride is in the car. So these are 3 things you could use to improve your SLS and get it to ride like it's supposed to be. If you have any questions, email me, or if you need help, we're here with our Patreon technical questions service. Please don't hesitate to reach out and enjoy working on your Mercedes Benz. Thank you, and happy Easter.